I was 7 years old when my parents separated, and that first Christmas apart felt like the world had split in two. Not just my world, but the entire universe, as if someone had taken a pair of enormous scissors and cut right through the middle of everything I knew. The smell of my mother's cinnamon cookies, the sound of my father's laughter echoing through the hallway, the warmth of all of us together on the couch watching old movies while snow fell softly outside the window. All of it, divided. It was early December when Mom sat me down at the kitchen table. I remember the way the afternoon light came through the window, pale and cold, making everything look washed out and tired. She held my hands in hers, and I could feel how cold her fingers were, like she had been standing outside for hours even though she had been home all day. Her voice was gentle but strained, like a guitar string pulled too tight, ready to snap at any moment. She told me that this year would be different. Christmas Eve would be at Dad's new apartment, and Christmas Day would be here, with her. 2 Christmases, she said, trying to smile. Twice the presents, twice the fun. But I could hear the crack in her voice, see the way her eyes got shiny with tears she was trying not to let fall. I nodded because I did not know what else to do, but inside, my chest felt heavy, like someone had placed a stone right where my heart should be. The weeks leading up to Christmas were strange. Dad picked me up every Wednesday and every other weekend, and we would drive through the city to his new place. It was a small apartment on the 3rd floor of a building that smelled like old carpet and cleaning products. The elevator made a grinding noise that set my teeth on edge, and the hallway was always too bright, with fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry insects. His apartment had white walls, a couch that was too big for the living room, and a tiny kitchen where everything echoed. He tried so hard to make it feel like home. He bought a small Christmas tree, barely 4 feet tall, and we decorated it together one Saturday afternoon. The ornaments were new, bought from a discount store, and they did not have any history. They were shiny and perfect, but they did not carry memories. Not like the ornaments at Mom's house, the ones I had made in kindergarten with popsicle sticks and glitter, or the glass angel that had belonged to my grandmother, delicate and ancient, with paint that had faded over the years. As we hung the ornaments on Dad's tree, I could hear the traffic outside, the constant hum of the city that never seemed to stop. At Mom's house, our old house, it had been quieter. We lived on a street lined with oak trees, and in winter, when the branches were bare, you could see all the way down to the park at the end of the block. Here, all I could see from the window was another building, brick and gray, with windows that reflected the sky. Dad put on Christmas music, the old classics, and I recognized the songs immediately. Bing Crosby singing about a white Christmas, Nat King Cole's smooth voice filling the small space. But somehow, the music sounded different here, tinny and thin, coming from a small speaker instead of the big stereo system we had at home. I tried to smile, tried to show Dad that I was happy, because I could see how much he wanted this to work, how desperately he needed me to be okay. We ordered pizza for dinner that night, and Dad let me pick the toppings. Pepperoni and extra cheese, my favorite. We ate sitting on the couch, paper plates on our laps, watching a Christmas movie on his laptop because he had not set up the television yet. The pizza was good, hot and greasy, the cheese stretching in long strings when I pulled a slice away from the box. But it was not the same as Mom's cooking, the roast chicken she made every Saturday, or the vegetable soup that simmered on the stove all afternoon, filling the house with the smell of carrots and celery and herbs. After the movie, Dad tucked me into the bed he had set up in the second bedroom. It was a small room, barely big enough for the bed and a dresser, but he had painted it blue, my favorite color, and hung up some of my drawings on the wall. The sheets were new and stiff, smelling of plastic packaging and laundry detergent, not yet softened by time and washing. He sat on the edge of the bed and brushed the hair back from my forehead, his hand warm and familiar. "Sleep tight, kiddo," he said, and his voice was rough with emotion. "I love you more than all the stars in the sky." "I love you too, Dad," I whispered back, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. But after he left, closing the door softly behind him, I lay in the darkness and felt the tears slide down my temples into my hair. I could hear him moving around in the living room, the creak of the couch as he sat down, the low murmur of the television. And I felt so alone, even though he was just on the other side of the wall. Back at Mom's house, things were different but equally strange. She threw herself into Christmas preparations with a kind of frantic energy that scared me a little. She baked more cookies than we could ever eat, dozens and dozens of them, filling the freezer with containers of gingerbread men and sugar cookies shaped like stars and trees and bells. The kitchen was always warm, always smelling of vanilla and cinnamon and butter, and there was always flour dusted across the counters, no matter how many times she wiped them down. She decorated every room, every surface. Garlands of evergreen draped over the doorways, filling the air with the sharp, clean scent of pine. Candles on every table, their flames flickering and casting dancing shadows on the walls. She hung lights along the porch railing, white ones that glowed softly in the early winter darkness, and put a wreath on the front door, thick and full, decorated with red berries and a big velvet bow. But at night, after I went to bed, I could hear her crying. The sound came through the walls, muffled but unmistakable, a sound that made my stomach twist and my throat tighten. I would pull the covers up over my head and try to block it out, but I could still hear it, could still feel it in my bones. Sometimes I wanted to go to her, to climb into her bed like I used to when I was smaller and had bad dreams, but something held me back. Maybe I was afraid that if I acknowledged her pain, it would become too real, too big to handle. The days grew shorter and colder. December in our town meant gray skies and biting wind, the kind of cold that seeped through your coat and made your fingers ache even inside gloves. The ground was hard and frozen, the grass brown and brittle. Sometimes it snowed, light dustings that barely covered the ground before melting away, leaving everything wet and muddy. At school, everyone talked about Christmas. What they were asking for, what their families were planning, where they were going. I listened but did not say much. How could I explain that I did not know what Christmas would be like this year? That I was going to have 2 Christmases, but somehow that felt like having none at all? My best friend, Tommy, asked me if I was excited, and I just shrugged and changed the subject. The week before Christmas, Mom took me shopping. We went to the big mall downtown, the one with the enormous Christmas tree in the center court, so tall it reached all the way to the skylight 3 stories up. It was decorated with thousands of lights, red and gold and silver, and topped with a star that seemed to touch the ceiling. The mall was packed with people, all of them rushing around with bags and packages, their faces flushed from the heat inside after the cold outside. Christmas music played over the speakers, competing with the noise of conversations and the ringing of cash registers and the occasional announcement over the intercom. The air smelled like a mixture of perfume from the department stores, popcorn from the food court, and the cinnamon from the pretzel stand. It was overwhelming, too much of everything, and I held tight to Mom's hand as we navigated through the crowds. We were there to buy a present for Dad. Mom insisted on it, even though I could see how hard it was for her. We walked through the men's department, looking at sweaters and ties and cologne. Everything seemed wrong, too impersonal, too generic. Finally, we found a book, a thick hardcover about the history of jazz music. Dad loved jazz, used to play it on Sunday mornings while he made pancakes, the saxophone and trumpet filling the house with their bright, brassy sound. Mom paid for the book and had it wrapped in shiny blue paper with a silver bow. As we walked back through the mall, she stopped suddenly and knelt down in front of me, right there in the middle of the crowd. People flowed around us like water around a stone. She took both my hands in hers and looked into my eyes, and I could see that she had been crying, even though she was trying to hide it. "I know this is hard, sweetheart," she said, her voice barely audible over the noise around us. "I know this is not the Christmas you wanted. It is not the Christmas I wanted either. But we're going to get through this, okay? We are going to be okay." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, and she pulled me into a hug, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. I could smell her perfume, the same one she always wore, something floral and sweet, and feel the softness of her coat against my cheek. For a moment, surrounded by strangers and noise and chaos, it was just the two of us, holding on to each other like we were the only solid things in a world that had become uncertain and strange. Christmas Eve arrived cold and clear. The sky was a deep, brilliant blue, the kind of blue that only happens in winter, and the sun was bright but gave no warmth. I woke up early, my stomach fluttering with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Today I would go to Dad's apartment for Christmas Eve. Tomorrow, Christmas Day, I would be back home with Mom. Mom helped me pack my overnight bag, folding my pajamas and putting in my toothbrush and the stuffed bear I still slept with, even though I was getting too old for it. She moved slowly, carefully, like she was trying to memorize every moment. When Dad's car pulled up outside, she walked me to the door and kissed the top of my head. "Have a wonderful time, baby," she said, and I could hear the effort it took for her to sound cheerful. "Tell your dad I said Merry Christmas." "I will," I promised, and then I was running down the front steps to where Dad waited, the cold air biting at my face and making my eyes water. The drive to Dad's apartment felt longer than usual, even though it was the same route we always took. He had the radio on, playing Christmas carols, and he sang along, his voice off-key but enthusiastic. I tried to join in, but my throat felt tight, and the words came out thin and wobbly. He reached over and squeezed my shoulder, and I could feel the warmth of his hand through my coat. When we got to the apartment, I could smell something cooking, something rich and savory that made my mouth water. Dad had been busy. The little tree was lit up, its lights twinkling in the dimness of the afternoon, and he had hung stockings on the wall, one for him and one for me, since there was no fireplace. The table was set with real plates, not paper ones, and there were candles waiting to be lit. "I made us a special dinner," Dad announced proudly, leading me into the kitchen. "Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. And I even made gravy from scratch." The kitchen was a mess, pots and pans everywhere, flour on the counter, a dish towel draped over the oven handle. But the chicken looked perfect, golden brown and glistening, and the smell was incredible, making my stomach growl with hunger. We worked together to finish the meal, Dad mashing the potatoes while I set the table, carefully placing the forks and knives the way Mom had taught me. When everything was ready, Dad lit the candles, and we sat down to eat. The food was delicious, maybe not quite as good as Mom's, but close, and I could taste the love and effort in every bite. The chicken was tender and juicy, the potatoes creamy and buttery, the green beans cooked just right, still a little crisp. Dad had even made rolls, warm and soft, and we slathered them with butter that melted into golden pools. We talked while we ate, about school and my friends and the book I was reading. Dad told me about his new job, about the people he worked with and the projects he was doing. It felt almost normal, almost like it used to be, except that Mom's chair was empty, and the apartment was not home, and underneath everything was the knowledge that this was temporary, that tomorrow I would leave and go back to her. After dinner, we cleaned up together, washing the dishes and putting away the leftovers. Then Dad made hot chocolate, the real kind, with cocoa powder and milk and sugar, heating it on the stove and stirring it until it was smooth and steaming. He topped it with marshmallows, the little ones that melted into sweet, sticky clouds on the surface. We took our mugs into the living room and sat on the couch, the Christmas tree lights casting a soft, colorful glow over everything. Dad put on a movie, the old animated one about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and we watched it together, sipping our hot chocolate and not talking much. The chocolate was rich and sweet, coating my tongue and warming me from the inside out. I leaned against Dad's side, and he put his arm around me, and for a little while, I let myself forget about everything else and just be there, in that moment. When the movie ended, Dad turned off the television and looked at me seriously. He set his empty mug on the coffee table and shifted so he was facing me more directly. The lights from the tree reflected in his eyes, making them look shiny and bright. "I want to talk to you about something," he said, and my heart started to beat faster, afraid of what he might say. "I know this year has been really hard for you. It has been hard for all of us. And I want you to know that none of this is your fault. Your mom and I, we still love you more than anything in the world. That has not changed and it never will." "I know," I said quietly, even though sometimes I was not sure I believed it. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if maybe I had done something wrong, if maybe I could have stopped them from splitting up if I had just been better, quieter, less trouble. Dad seemed to read my mind because he reached out and tilted my chin up so I had to look at him. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "This is not about you. This is about your mom and me, and the fact that sometimes, even when people love each other, they cannot make it work. But you are the best thing that ever happened to either of us. You are our miracle, our joy, our everything. Do you understand?" I nodded, and the tears I had been holding back for weeks suddenly spilled over, running hot down my cheeks. Dad pulled me into his arms and held me while I cried, great heaving sobs that shook my whole body. He did not tell me to stop or to calm down. He just held me and let me cry, his hand rubbing slow circles on my back, his voice murmuring soft, soothing words I could not quite make out over my own crying. When I finally stopped, exhausted and empty, he wiped my face with his sleeve and smiled at me, a sad, gentle smile that made him look older than I remembered. "Better?" he asked, and I nodded, even though I was not sure if I felt better or just tired. "How about we open one present tonight?" he suggested. "Just one, and then the rest tomorrow morning before you go back to your mom's." I agreed, and we went over to the tree. There were several presents underneath it, wrapped in bright paper with bows and tags. Dad handed me one, a medium-sized box that was surprisingly light. I tore off the paper, my fingers clumsy with anticipation, and opened the box to find a journal, bound in soft leather the color of chocolate, with blank pages inside waiting to be filled. "I thought you could write in it," Dad explained. "Write about your day, or stories, or anything you want. And maybe, when you are at your mom's house and you miss me, or when you are here and you miss her, you can write about it. Sometimes it helps to get the feelings out, you know?" I ran my hand over the smooth leather, feeling the grain under my fingers. It was beautiful, and I loved it immediately. "Thank you, Dad," I said, and I meant it with all my heart. We stayed up a little longer, talking and laughing, and then Dad sent me to bed. I changed into my pajamas and brushed my teeth, and when I climbed into the bed in the small blue room, Dad came in to tuck me in, just like he used to when we all lived together. He sat on the edge of the bed and sang to me, an old lullaby I barely remembered, his voice soft and a little scratchy. I closed my eyes and listened, feeling the weight of the blankets and the warmth of the room and the sound of his voice wrapping around me like a cocoon. "Merry Christmas, kiddo," he whispered, kissing my forehead. "Sweet dreams." "Merry Christmas, Dad," I whispered back, and then he was gone, the door clicking softly shut behind him, leaving me in the darkness with only the faint glow of the streetlight outside the window. I woke up on Christmas morning to the smell of coffee and bacon. For a moment, I was disoriented, not sure where I was, and then I remembered. Dad's apartment. Christmas morning. I climbed out of bed and padded into the kitchen, where Dad was making breakfast, still in his pajamas and robe, his hair sticking up in funny directions. "Merry Christmas," he said again, grinning at me. "I made your favorite. Pancakes and bacon." We ate breakfast together, the pancakes fluffy and golden, drizzled with syrup that was warm and sweet. The bacon was crispy, just the way I liked it, and Dad had even cut up some strawberries and put them on the side. We ate slowly, savoring every bite, and then we went into the living room to open the rest of the presents. There were more than I expected. A new winter coat, thick and warm, in a deep purple that I loved. A set of colored pencils, the fancy kind with dozens of colors, and a sketchbook to go with them. A puzzle, 1,000 pieces, with a picture of a snowy mountain landscape. And books, several of them, stories about adventure and magic in faraway places. I loved everything, but more than the presents, I loved the way Dad watched me open them, his face lit up with joy and pride. I gave him his present, the book about jazz that Mom and I had picked out, and he held it like it was something precious, running his fingers over the cover and flipping through the pages. "This is perfect," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much, sweetheart. I am going to treasure this." We spent the rest of the morning playing with my new things, Dad helping me start the puzzle on the coffee table, and then it was time for me to go. Dad packed up my things, including all my new presents, and we loaded them into the car. The drive back to Mom's house was quiet, both of us lost in our own thoughts. I clutched the leather journal in my lap, my fingers tracing the edges over and over. When we pulled up in front of the house, I could see Mom waiting on the porch, wrapped in her thick cardigan, her breath making little clouds in the cold air. Dad walked me to the door, carrying my bag, and for a moment, the three of us stood there together, awkward and uncertain. "Merry Christmas," Dad said to Mom, his voice careful and polite. "Merry Christmas," she replied, and there was something in her eyes, something soft and sad. "Thank you for bringing her home." Dad kissed the top of my head one more time, told me he loved me, and then he was walking back to his car. I watched him go, watched him drive away, and then Mom put her arm around my shoulders and guided me inside, into the warmth and the smell of cinnamon and pine. The house was exactly as I had left it, but somehow it felt different, warmer and more welcoming. Mom had been busy too. There were more presents under the tree, wrapped in paper covered with snowflakes and reindeer. The fireplace was lit, flames crackling and popping, filling the room with dancing light and warmth. Christmas music played softly from the stereo, and there was something cooking in the kitchen, something that smelled rich and savory and delicious. Mom made me hot apple cider, heating it on the stove with cinnamon sticks and cloves, and we sat together on the couch, wrapped in a big blanket, watching the fire and sipping our drinks. The cider was hot and sweet and spicy, warming me from the inside out, and I could feel the tension I had been carrying for weeks starting to ease. "Did you have a good time at your dad's?" Mom asked, and I could hear the effort it took for her to ask, the way she was trying so hard to be supportive and positive. "Yeah," I said. "It was nice. He made dinner and we watched movies and he gave me this journal." I showed her the journal, and she ran her fingers over the leather just like I had, a small smile on her face. "That is beautiful," she said. "Your dad always did have good taste." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then Mom suggested we open presents. We moved to the floor in front of the tree, and I started unwrapping the gifts she had gotten me. More books, because she knew how much I loved to read. A new pair of pajamas, soft flannel covered in stars and moons. A board game we could play together. And a necklace, delicate and silver, with a small heart pendant that caught the light and sparkled. "I want you to have this," Mom said as she helped me put it on, her fingers gentle as she fastened the clasp at the back of my neck. "So you can remember that you are loved, always, no matter what." I gave her the present I had made at school, a picture frame I had decorated with paint and glitter and little gems, with a photo of the two of us inside. She held it like it was the most valuable thing in the world, tears streaming down her face, and pulled me into a hug so tight I thought my ribs might crack. "I love you so much," she whispered into my hair. So much." "I love you too, Mom," I whispered back, and I realized that even though everything had changed, even though our family was different now, this love, this fierce, unbreakable love, was still the same. We spent the rest of Christmas Day together, just the two of us. We played the new board game, laughing when I won and she pretended to be upset. We worked on the puzzle Dad had given me, finding the edge pieces and starting to build the frame. We made cookies, rolling out the dough and cutting shapes and decorating them with frosting and sprinkles, making a mess of the kitchen and not caring at all. For dinner, Mom made a feast. Roast beef with gravy, roasted potatoes with rosemary, glazed carrots, and homemade rolls. We ate at the dining room table, with candles lit and Christmas music playing, and even though it was just the two of us, it felt special and important. The food was incredible, each bite full of flavor and love, and I ate until I was so full I could barely move. After dinner, we curled up on the couch again and watched a movie, one of the old classics we had watched every year for as long as I could remember. I knew every line, every scene, but it never got old. Mom fell asleep halfway through, her head resting on the arm of the couch, her breathing slow and even. I covered her with the blanket and watched the rest of the movie by myself, the fire burning low, the tree lights twinkling in the dimness. That night, lying in my own bed, in my own room, I thought about the day, about both days, about Christmas Eve at Dad's and Christmas Day with Mom. It had been different, strange, not what I was used to. But it had also been good. Both of them had tried so hard to make it special for me, to show me that even though things had changed, their love had not. I got out of bed and found the journal Dad had given me. I turned on my bedside lamp and opened to the first page, the paper smooth and blank and full of possibility. I picked up a pen and started to write, the words flowing out of me like water, all the feelings I had been holding inside for so long. I wrote about the separation, about how scared and sad and angry I had been. I wrote about Dad's apartment and Mom's cookies and the 2 Christmas trees and the 2 dinners. I wrote about the presents and the hugs and the tears. And I wrote about the love, the overwhelming, unconditional love that both of them had for me, that had not changed and never would. When I finally put down the pen, my hand was cramping and my eyes were heavy with sleep. But I felt lighter, like I had set down a burden I had been carrying for too long. I closed the journal and turned off the light, snuggling down under my covers, the necklace Mom had given me cool against my skin. The years that followed were not always easy. There were more Christmases split between 2 houses, more holidays and birthdays and ordinary days divided between Mom and Dad. There were times when I was angry, when I resented having to pack a bag and move back and forth, when I wished desperately that things could go back to the way they were. But there were also good times, unexpected moments of joy and connection. Dad's apartment slowly became more like home, filled with memories and inside jokes and traditions of our own. Mom found her footing again, her smile becoming more genuine, her laughter coming more easily. And I learned to navigate this new reality, to find comfort in both places, to understand that love does not have to look a certain way to be real and true. I kept writing in the journal Dad gave me that first Christmas. I filled it up and then started another one, and then another. I wrote about school and friends and growing up. I wrote about the hard days and the good days and all the days in between. And sometimes, when I was feeling lost or confused or overwhelmed, I would go back and read those first entries, the ones I wrote when I was 7 years old and the world had just split in two. Reading them reminded me of how far I had come, how much I had grown. That scared, sad little girl was still a part of me, but she was not all of me. I had learned to be resilient, to adapt, to find happiness even when things were not perfect. I had learned that family can take many forms, that home can be more than one place, that love is not diminished by distance or division. When I was 12, something unexpected happened. It was Christmas Eve, and I was at Dad's apartment, which by then felt as much like home as Mom's house did. We had just finished dinner, another of Dad's special meals, and were settling in to watch a movie when there was a knock at the door. Dad looked surprised. He was not expecting anyone. He went to the door and opened it, and I heard him say, in a voice full of shock and confusion, "Sarah? What are you doing here?" I got up from the couch and went to see who it was, and there, standing in the doorway, was Mom. She was bundled up in her winter coat, her cheeks pink from the cold, snowflakes caught in her hair. She looked nervous, her hands twisting together, her eyes darting between Dad and me. "I am sorry to just show up like this," she said, her voice shaky. "I know this is your time with her, and I do not want to intrude. But I was sitting at home alone, and I just kept thinking about how this is not right. How we should not be spending Christmas apart, not when we all love each other so much." Dad stood there, frozen, not saying anything, and I could see the emotions playing across his face. Surprise, confusion, and something else, something that looked almost like hope. "I thought maybe," Mom continued, her voice getting stronger, "maybe we could spend Christmas Eve together. All three of us. Not as a couple," she added quickly, seeing the look on Dad's face. "Just as a family. For her." She looked at me, and I could see the question in her eyes, the fear that maybe she had made a mistake, that maybe this was too much, too weird, too painful. But I did not think it was any of those things. I thought it was perfect. I ran to her and threw my arms around her waist, hugging her as tight as I could. "Yes," I said, my voice muffled against her coat. "Yes, please stay." Dad cleared his throat, and when I looked at him, I could see that his eyes were shiny with tears. "Of course," he said, his voice rough. "Of course you should stay. Come in, please." Mom came inside, and Dad took her coat and hung it up. It was awkward at first, the three of us standing in the living room, not quite sure what to do or say. But then Dad offered Mom some hot chocolate, and she accepted, and we all sat down on the couch together, me in the middle, and slowly, the awkwardness faded. We watched the movie together, the same one we had watched every Christmas Eve when I was little, when we were still a family in the traditional sense. We laughed at the funny parts and quoted the lines we knew by heart. Mom and Dad did not sit close together, and they did not hold hands or touch, but there was a warmth between them, a kindness and respect that had not been there in those first painful months after the separation. When the movie ended, Mom said she should go, but I begged her to stay a little longer. We played a board game, the three of us, and it was just like old times, the teasing and the laughter and the friendly competition. Dad made popcorn, and we ate it straight from the bowl, our fingers getting buttery and salty. Finally, when it was late and I was yawning so much I could barely keep my eyes open, Mom said she really did have to leave. She hugged me tight and kissed my forehead, and then, hesitantly, she turned to Dad. "Thank you," she said softly, "for letting me be here tonight. It meant a lot." "Thank you for coming," Dad replied, and there was something in his voice, something gentle and genuine. "It meant a lot to me too. To both of us." They looked at each other for a long moment, and I held my breath, not sure what was happening but feeling like it was something important, something significant. Then Mom smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes, and Dad smiled back, and the tension that had been there for so long seemed to ease just a little bit. After Mom left, Dad tucked me into bed, and I asked him if he thought she would come back next year, if maybe this could become a new tradition. He was quiet for a moment, thinking, and then he said, "I do not know, kiddo. But I hope so. I really hope so." And she did come back. The next year, and the year after that, and every Christmas Eve after. It became our tradition, the three of us spending Christmas Eve together at Dad's apartment, and then me going back to Mom's house for Christmas Day. It was not perfect, and it was not what any of us had imagined when we thought about what family should look like. But it was ours, and it was real, and it was filled with love. As I got older, I came to understand more about what had happened between my parents, about the reasons they could not stay together, about the ways they had grown apart. But I also came to understand that divorce did not mean the end of family, that love could change shape without disappearing, that it was possible to honor the past while building something new. I am an adult now, with a life and a family of my own. But I still think about those Christmases, about the year everything changed and the years that followed. I think about the courage it took for my mom to show up at my dad's door that Christmas Eve, about the grace it took for my dad to welcome her in, about the love they both had for me that was bigger than their hurt and anger and disappointment. And I think about that journal, the one Dad gave me that first Christmas, and all the journals that came after. I still have them, boxes of them, filled with years of thoughts and feelings and memories. Sometimes I take them out and read through them, tracing the evolution of my handwriting, watching myself grow up on the pages. My own children ask me sometimes about their grandparents, about why Grandma and Grandpa do not live together. And I tell them the truth, in words they can understand. I tell them that sometimes people love each other but cannot be married, that families come in all different shapes and sizes, that what matters is not the structure but the love. And every Christmas Eve, we all gather together, my parents and my spouse and my children, at what is now my house. We have dinner and watch movies and open one present each. My parents are friendly and warm with each other, years of practice making it easy and natural. They ask about each other's lives, share stories, laugh at old jokes. My children do not see anything strange about it. To them, this is just how Christmas is, how family is. They do not know about the pain and the tears and the fear that came before, about the little girl who cried herself to sleep in a strange bed in a small blue room. They just know that they are loved, fiercely and completely, by a whole network of people who would do anything for them. And maybe that is the real gift, the real miracle of that first Christmas in two houses. Not that it was easy or painless, but that it taught me about resilience and adaptation and the many forms that love can take. It taught me that endings can also be beginnings, that broken things can be made into something new and beautiful, that family is not defined by who lives under the same roof but by who shows up, who stays, who loves you through the hard times and the good times and all the times in between. On Christmas morning, after everyone has gone home and the house is quiet, I sometimes take out that first journal, the one with the soft leather cover the color of chocolate. I open it to those first entries, written in my childish handwriting, the letters uneven and the words sometimes misspelled. And I read about that 7-year-old girl, so scared and sad and confused, trying to make sense of a world that had suddenly become complicated and painful. And I wish I could go back and tell her that it is going to be okay. That yes, things are different now, and yes, it hurts, and yes, it is not fair. But that she is going to be okay. More than okay. She is going to learn and grow and become strong in ways she cannot imagine. She is going to understand that love is not a finite resource, that having two homes means having twice as many places where she is cherished and valued and safe. I wish I could tell her that one day, she will look back on this time not with bitterness or regret, but with gratitude. Gratitude for parents who loved her enough to put her needs first, even when it was hard. Gratitude for the lessons she learned about resilience and forgiveness and the complexity of human relationships. Gratitude for the family she has now, messy and unconventional and absolutely perfect. But I cannot go back, cannot whisper reassurance to that frightened child. All I can do is honor her, honor the journey she began that Christmas, honor the courage it took to keep going even when everything felt broken and wrong. So every year, on Christmas Eve, after the dinner and the movies and the presents, after my parents have hugged me and told me they love me and headed home to their separate houses, I take a moment to myself. I light a candle and I sit in the quiet, and I think about that first Christmas in two houses, about the memory that united my divided family. And I give thanks. Thanks for the pain that taught me empathy. Thanks for the fear that taught me courage. Thanks for the division that taught me that love can bridge any distance, heal any wound, overcome any obstacle. Because that is what Christmas is really about, is it not? Not the presents or the decorations or the perfect family gathered around a perfect tree. It is about love. Love that shows up even when it is hard. Love that adapts and changes and finds new ways to express itself. Love that never gives up, never gives in, never stops trying. That first Christmas, when I was 7 years old and my world had split in two, I thought I had lost everything. But what I actually lost was just one version of family, one way of being together. What I gained was so much more. I gained an understanding of the strength and resilience of the human heart. I gained a deeper appreciation for the people who love me. I gained a story, a memory, a foundation on which to build my own life and my own family. And every year, when Christmas comes around, I am reminded of that gift. The gift of that first painful, beautiful, transformative Christmas in two houses. The gift of parents who loved me enough to do the hard thing, to end a marriage that was not working so that they could both be happier, healthier, better versions of themselves. The gift of learning, at a young age, that life does not always go according to plan, but that does not mean it cannot still be wonderful. I look at my own children now, sleeping peacefully in their beds, their stockings hung by the fireplace, their faces still sticky with hot chocolate and cookies. They are so innocent, so trusting, so sure that the world is a safe and loving place. And I hope with all my heart that they never have to experience the kind of pain I did, the kind of loss and confusion and fear. But I also know that life is unpredictable, that challenges will come, that they will face their own struggles and heartbreaks. And when that happens, I hope I can give them what my parents gave me. Not a perfect life, not a life free from pain, but a life filled with love. Love that is constant and unwavering, love that adapts to whatever circumstances arise, love that says, no matter what happens, I am here, I am with you, you are not alone. That is the legacy of that first Christmas in two houses. Not the sadness or the difficulty, but the love that persisted through it all. The love that found a way to keep our family together even when we were living apart. The love that turned something broken into something new and beautiful. And so, as I blow out the candle and head to bed on this Christmas Eve, I carry that memory with me. The memory of a 7-year-old girl, scared and sad but also brave and resilient. The memory of two parents who loved their daughter more than they loved their own comfort or pride. The memory of a family that refused to let divorce define them, that chose instead to redefine what family could mean. It is a memory I will carry with me always, a memory that has shaped who I am and how I love and how I face the challenges that life brings. It is a memory that reminds me, every single day, that love is stronger than fear, that hope is more powerful than despair, that family is not about perfection but about showing up, again and again, no matter how hard it gets. And it is a memory that I will pass down to my children, and hopefully they will pass down to theirs. Not as a story of sadness or loss, but as a story of love and resilience and the incredible capacity of the human heart to heal and grow and find joy even in the most difficult circumstances. Because that is what Christmas is, at its core. It is a celebration of hope in the darkness, of light in the midst of winter, of love that comes into the world and changes everything. It is a reminder that even when things seem broken beyond repair, there is always the possibility of redemption, of healing, of new beginnings. That first Christmas in two houses was my new beginning. It was the start of a journey that has taken me places I never expected, taught me lessons I never wanted to learn, and given me gifts I never knew I needed. It was painful and difficult and sometimes felt impossible. But it was also beautiful and transformative and ultimately, a blessing. So tonight, as I lie in bed listening to the quiet sounds of my house settling, the soft breathing of my children in their rooms, the gentle snoring of my spouse beside me, I think about that little girl I used to be. And I send her love across the years, love and gratitude and the assurance that everything she is going through, everything she is feeling, is leading her exactly where she needs to go. I think about my parents, both of them, and the sacrifice they made. The sacrifice of their marriage, yes, but more than that, the sacrifice of their pride and their anger and their hurt, so that they could give me what I needed most. Not a perfect family, but a loving one. Not a traditional home, but two homes where I was cherished and valued and safe. And I think about all the families out there who are going through something similar, who are facing the pain of divorce or separation, who are trying to figure out how to navigate the holidays and the birthdays and all the ordinary days in between. And I want to tell them what I learned, what that first Christmas in two houses taught me. I want to tell them that it is okay to grieve, to be sad, to acknowledge that this is not what you wanted or planned. But I also want to tell them that it is possible to find joy again, to build something new and meaningful from the pieces of what was broken. I want to tell them that children are resilient, that they can adapt and thrive even in difficult circumstances, as long as they know they are loved. I want to tell them that it takes time, that healing is not linear, that there will be setbacks and hard days and moments when you wonder if you made the right choice. But I also want to tell them that it gets easier, that the pain fades, that eventually you will look back and see how far you have come and feel proud of the strength it took to get there. And most of all, I want to tell them that love is enough. Not romantic love, not the love between partners, but the love between parent and child, the love that says I will do whatever it takes to make sure you are okay, even if it costs me everything. That love is powerful enough to overcome any obstacle, to heal any wound, to bridge any distance. That is the message of that first Christmas in two houses. That is the memory that united my divided family. Not a memory of perfection or ease, but a memory of love that persisted, that adapted, that found a way to keep us connected even when we were living apart. And as I finally drift off to sleep, warm and safe and surrounded by the people I love most in the world, I carry that memory with me like a talisman, a reminder of where I have been and how far I have come. A reminder that no matter what challenges life brings, no matter how broken things may seem, there is always hope. There is always love. There is always the possibility of a new beginning. The snow falls softly outside my window, covering the world in a blanket of white, making everything clean and new. And I think about how appropriate that is, how perfectly it captures what that first Christmas in two houses did for me and my family. It took something that felt dirty and broken and painful, and it covered it with grace and love and the promise of new beginnings. It did not erase what had happened. The pain was still there, the loss was still real. But it transformed it, gave it meaning, turned it into something that could be a source of strength rather than just sorrow. It taught me that endings are not always bad, that sometimes they are necessary, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go of what is not working so that something better can take its place. And that is a lesson I carry with me every day, not just at Christmas but all year round. When I face challenges in my own marriage, when I struggle with decisions about my children, when I encounter difficulties at work or in my friendships, I remember that first Christmas. I remember the courage it took for my parents to make the choice they made, the grace it took for them to put aside their own hurt and anger for my sake, the love that motivated every difficult decision. And I try to bring that same courage and grace and love to my own life, to my own relationships, to my own challenges. I try to remember that perfection is not the goal, that what matters is showing up, trying your best, loving as hard as you can even when it is difficult. Because that is what my parents did for me. They showed up. They tried their best. They loved me as hard as they could, even when it was difficult, even when it would have been easier to give in to bitterness and resentment and anger. They chose love, again and again, and that choice made all the difference. So as this Christmas comes to a close, as I prepare to wake up tomorrow and do it all again, to make breakfast and open more presents and call my parents to wish them Merry Christmas, I hold this memory close to my heart. The memory of that first Christmas in two houses, the memory that united my divided family, the memory that taught me everything I know about love and resilience and the incredible capacity of the human spirit to heal and grow and find joy even in the darkest times. It is a memory I will treasure always, a memory that has shaped me in ways I am still discovering, a memory that reminds me every single day of what is truly important in life. Not the presents or the decorations or the perfect holiday celebration. But the love. Always the love. The love that shows up even when it is hard. The love that adapts and changes and finds new ways to express itself. The love that never gives up, never gives in, never stops trying. That is the gift my parents gave me that first Christmas in two houses. That is the legacy they left me. And that is what I hope to pass on to my own children, and to anyone else who needs to hear it. That no matter how broken things may seem, no matter how painful or difficult or impossible, there is always hope. There is always love. There is always the possibility of healing and growth and new beginnings. And that, more than anything else, is what Christmas is all about. Not the magic of Santa Claus or the beauty of the decorations or the joy of receiving gifts. But the deeper magic of love that persists through difficulty, of hope that shines in the darkness, of grace that transforms pain into something beautiful and meaningful. That first Christmas, when I was 7 years old and everything had changed, I could not see any of this. I could only see the loss, the pain, the fear. I could not imagine that one day I would look back on that time with gratitude, that I would see it as the beginning of something rather than the end. I could not imagine that the lessons I learned that year would shape the rest of my life, would make me stronger and wiser and more compassionate. But that is exactly what happened. That painful, difficult, transformative Christmas became the foundation on which I built my understanding of love and family and resilience. It taught me that life does not always go according to plan, but that does not mean it cannot still be beautiful. It taught me that endings can be beginnings, that broken things can be made whole in new and unexpected ways, that love is not diminished by change but can actually grow stronger through it. And now, all these years later, I can see the gift in what felt like a curse. I can see the blessing in what felt like a tragedy. I can see the love that was always there, even when it was hard to recognize, even when it was expressed in ways I did not understand or appreciate at the time. My parents gave me the greatest gift they could have given me that Christmas. Not the presents under the tree, not the special meals or the decorations or the traditions. But the gift of their love, unwavering and unconditional, expressed through the difficult choice to end their marriage so that they could both be happier and healthier, so that they could be better parents to me. It was a gift I did not want at the time, a gift I would have refused if I had been given the choice. But it was exactly what I needed, exactly what would shape me into the person I am today. And for that, I am grateful. More grateful than I can ever express. So tonight, on this Christmas Eve, I raise a silent toast to that 7-year-old girl, to the journey she began, to the courage she showed even when she did not feel brave. I raise a toast to my parents, to the sacrifice they made, to the love they showed me even when it was hard. And I raise a toast to all the families out there who are navigating their own difficult circumstances, who are trying to figure out how to love and support their children through change and loss and uncertainty. May you find the strength to keep going. May you find the grace to forgive yourselves and each other. May you find the love that is always there, waiting to be discovered, ready to heal and transform and make all things new. Because that is what Christmas promises us every single year. Not that life will be easy or perfect or free from pain. But that love is stronger than fear, that hope is more powerful than despair, that light will always find a way to shine in the darkness. That is the message of that first Christmas in two houses. That is the memory that united my divided family. That is the gift that keeps on giving, year after year, reminding me of what is truly important, what truly matters, what truly lasts. And as I close my eyes and let sleep finally claim me, I whisper a prayer of gratitude for that gift, for that memory, for that first painful and beautiful Christmas that changed everything. I whisper thanks for the journey it began, for the lessons it taught me, for the person it helped me become. And I whisper a promise to that 7-year-old girl, to my parents, to my own children, and to myself. A promise to keep showing up, to keep trying, to keep loving as hard as I can even when it is difficult. A promise to honor the legacy of that first Christmas in two houses by living a life filled with courage and grace and unconditional love. Because that is what that Christmas taught me, above all else. That love is a choice, made again and again, in big moments and small ones, in times of joy and times of sorrow. That family is not defined by structure or tradition or living arrangements, but by the commitment to show up for each other, to support each other, to love each other no matter what. And that is a lesson worth remembering, not just at Christmas but every single day of the year. A lesson that has the power to transform not just individuals but entire families, entire communities, the entire world. So as this story comes to a close, as I drift off into dreams of snow and candlelight in the faces of the people I love most in the world, I hold that lesson close to my heart. I hold the memory of that first Christmas in two houses, the memory that united my divided family, the memory that taught me everything I know about what it means to truly love. And I am grateful. So deeply, profoundly grateful. For the pain that taught me empathy. For the fear that taught me courage. For the loss that taught me what truly matters. For the love that never gave up, never gave in, never stopped finding new ways to express itself. That is the real magic of Christmas. Not the presents or the decorations or the perfect family gathering. But the love that persists through everything, the love that transforms pain into beauty, the love that makes all things new. And that love, that incredible, unconditional, transformative love, is the greatest gift I have ever received. Greater than any present under any tree. Greater than any tradition or celebration or holiday magic. It is the gift my parents gave me that first Christmas in two houses. It is the gift I try to give my own children every single day. And it is the gift I hope to share with the world, through this story, through my life, through every choice I make and every word I speak. Because if there is one thing I want people to take away from this story, one message I want to leave with anyone who hears it, it is this. That no matter what you are going through, no matter how broken or painful or impossible things may seem, there is always hope. There is always love. There is always the possibility of healing and growth and new beginnings. That first Christmas in two houses felt like the end of everything. But it was actually the beginning. The beginning of a new kind of family, a new way of loving, a new understanding of what it means to be resilient and strong and capable of overcoming any obstacle. And if I could do it, if my family could do it, then anyone can. It is not easy. It is not painless. It requires courage and grace and a willingness to let go of what you thought your life would look like and embrace what it actually is. But it is possible. And it is worth it. So to anyone out there who is facing their own first Christmas in two houses, their own painful transition, their own difficult new reality, I want to say this. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think. And the love you have for your children, the love they have for you, is powerful enough to overcome anything. It will not happen overnight. It will take time and patience and a lot of hard work. There will be setbacks and tears and moments when you want to give up. But if you keep showing up, if you keep trying, if you keep choosing love over bitterness and hope over despair, you will get through this. And one day, you will look back and see how far you have come, and you will be amazed at your own strength and resilience. That is what that first Christmas in two houses taught me. That is the memory that united my divided family. And that is the message I want to leave with you, as this story comes to an end. Love is enough. Love is always enough. Not the easy love of perfect circumstances and happy endings, but the hard love that shows up in the midst of difficulty and pain and uncertainty. The love that adapts and changes and finds new ways to express itself. The love that never gives up, never gives in, never stops trying. That is the love my parents showed me. That is the love I try to show my own children. And that is the love that has the power to heal any wound, bridge any distance, overcome any obstacle. So as the snow continues to fall outside my window, as the world sleeps peacefully under its white blanket, as Christmas Eve gives way to Christmas Day, I hold this truth close to my heart. The truth that love is the greatest gift, the most powerful force, the only thing that truly matters in the end. And I am grateful. So deeply, profoundly, eternally grateful. For that first Christmas in two houses. For the memory that united my divided family. For the lessons I learned and the person I became and the life I have built on the foundation of that painful, beautiful, transformative experience. It was not the Christmas I wanted. It was not the Christmas I would have chosen. But it was exactly the Christmas I needed. And for that, I will be forever thankful. Merry Christmas to all who hear this story. May you find love in unexpected places. May you find strength in difficult times. May you find hope in the darkness. And may you always remember that no matter how broken things may seem, there is always the possibility of healing, of growth, of new beginnings. Because that is what Christmas is all about. That is what life is all about. And that is the greatest gift any of us can ever receive or give.